So that completes my comprehensive review of the complete and unabridged 10 Books of Amber. So until the next time you get lost in here, I'm Derek the Bard. Be seeing you.
Is he gone? Good. Greetings and happy salutations. I'm Sin Wicked. This is Derek the Bard's Library, and this is the Year of Clamp Recap, Week 4. Magic Knight Rayearth episodes 17 to 24. Let's go! We're near the end of Season 1 now, so let's get right into it. Saphiro is crumbling, and Clef wastes his last chance to talk to the girls to tell them to do everything they were already doing, but do it faster! Inova talks with Zagato about being returned to his old, more powerful form. We learn that Zagato has been uneasy about sending Inova into battle because he was a gift from the princess, but Inova wants Zagato to look past their bond in order to realize his oft-mentioned but never-defined dream. Zagato agrees, and Inova turns into something and goes to kill the Magic Knights. Again. The Magic Knights come to where Inova is waiting, and it turns out his true form is a bunny, wolf, unicorn thing that's psychic and made of lightning. Man, Saphiro's gotta be a Pokemon trainer's wet dream. The Knights are getting their asses kicked, and we cut over to Ferio. See, I told you we weren't done with him yet, as he's cradling the plot device egg. Through a series of flashbacks and plot exposition from the weakening Emerald, we discover that Ferio is Emerald's younger brother. Wait, younger brother? But... whatever. Saphiro is weird. Ferio runs off to save the Knights and does so by telling them, hey, maybe you should aim for the big gem on his forehead, just like with every other major monster you fought. Hikaru kills Inova, Ferio hands over his plot egg so now the Knights have both, and then runs off. Zagato is out of minions now. Well, except Alcyone, but at this point even he sees how useless she is. So like so many villains before him, he realizes that if you want to get something done right, you've got to do it yourself. The girls reach the Fire Temple. Seriously, we're not in Hyrule? You're sure? Okay. The girls reach the Fire Temple, and Hikaru gets abducted by fire tentacles. No! Bad! Bad! We are not going there! Get out of here right now! Zagato arrives just after Hikaru gets taken by the fire things, and vaporizes Umi and Fu's armor with a single spell, raising the question of why he didn't do that right after he turned Clef to stone. Hikaru meets Rayearth, and like Celis and Wyndham before him, he says, "Show me the strength of thy heart," then sends her back to fight Zagato. Zagato tries to bribe Hikaru, then threatens her, then vaporizes her armor too, and then Lafarga shows up. Remember him? He had all of one episode as a minion. So between Lafarga and Hikaru, we have lots of determined eyes and refusing to back down. Eventually, Rayearth decides he's heard enough speeches about saving Saphiro and the power of friendship, and he comes out of the temple and bitch slaps Zagato away. The Knights get their final armor upgrade with capes and pretty hair accessories, because it's Clamp, and Clamp loves pretty things. Then the Knights don their rune gods, and fly their mechs into the final episodes. They recap everything they've done up to this point. Keep in mind, they're doing this after the episode opened with a recap of what had happened already, so now we're into double recap territory. Then Emerald uses the plot device eggs to point the way for the Magic Knights. Meanwhile, Zagato looms ominously over Emerald, with Alcyone spying on them. Emerald heals Zagato's wounds from fighting Rayearth, proving her to be a more effective cleric than Fu, and then Zagato says something the audience can't hear before going out to pilot his rune god against the Magic Knights. Woo! 19 episodes in, and way too many plot recaps later, we have giant robot fights! They make everything better! Fight, 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 fight. Zagato is defeated and explodes! Play the victory fanfare. The Magic Knights have saved Saphiro and Princess Emerald. Right? Right? No, of course not. The Knights fly into the castle to find Princess Emerald, only to discover that she's all grown up now. Grown-up Emerald isn't happy with the Knights at all and tries to kill them. The girls escape, convinced that obviously that wasn't the real Princess Emerald, because they've got fantasy protagonist syndrome, aka they're dumb. Fortunately, the rune gods aren't as dumb as their pilots, and explain that the magic knights are summoned to another world to fight the pillar. Emerald summons her own rune god and is going to
kill them with Zagato's sword!
Thanks, Emerald. There's more fighting, with the knights getting their asses kicked because, well, Emerald is the one true god of Sephiroth, and they're a bunch of junior high students from Tokyo. Meanwhile, little Emerald explains that the knights have to kill her because she has stopped being able to pray only for Sephiroth. Turns out that this entire chain of events was caused because Emerald fell in love with Zagato. So now she's used the one spell in Sephiroth that no one can counter to end her life, so a new pillar can be born. Clef appears on a cliff top with Makona to verify little Emerald's story, and the Magic Knights realize they have no choice but to kill Emerald. And they can only do it one way. They're gonna combine.
They're gonna combine. They're gonna combine.
They're gonna combine!
Tears in their eyes, the knights shove their sword right through Emerald, and she explodes, joining her dear Zagato in the afterlife, and thanking the Magic Knights for murdering her. Sephiroth is weird. Then the knights are sent back to Tokyo, and in true Narnian fashion, they've been gone no time at all. Season 1 over. Time for Season 2.
It is said that in the final days of planet Earth, everyone had bad dreams.
Well, okay, not everyone. Just Hikaru. It's been a couple of months since the girls have returned from Sephiroth, and all of their families have started to notice that their little girls aren't as cheerful as they once were. Obviously, this means boy troubles, since what other concerns could teenage girls have, right? We meet Hikaru's brothers, who are weirdly overprotective, Umi's parents, who are almost disgustingly lovey-dovey, and Fu's older sister Ku, who proves that Fu's parents should be investigated for cruel and unusual naming conventions. The girls all meet at Tokyo Tower to commiserate when suddenly they're zapped back to Sephiroth, hundreds of miles above the ground again. Seriously? Interdimensional travel to Sephiroth needs to come up with a better arrival method than drop from the sky. But Clef's giant flying fish saves them again and takes them to the Castle of the Childlike Empress? Superman's Fortress of Solitude? Diamanda Hagen's Summer Fortress? I'm just gonna call it Sephiroth's Crystal Penis. So the girls enter Sephiroth's Crystal Penis and meet Clef. We have tons of exposition, but it boils down to Sephiroth is still crumbling, this Crystal Penis is our last bastion of safety while we wait for the new pillar. Oh, and armies from these 3 other worlds near Sephiroth are invading now because the pillar is gone. The girls volunteer to help defend Sephiroth, and Clef gives them back their magic and some shiny new armor that will change into any of the previous armor forms they had at will. Then they get their weapons from Presea. Yeah, Presea's alive now. Apparently. Seems that as Emerald was dying, she wished that all those who had lost their lives when she wasn't protecting Sephiroth would be reborn. Which I don't remember happening, but sure, why not? Whatever. Then the girls reclaim their rune gods and fly off into space to face off against the gunship of Autozom, which totally isn't a giant penis. There's a lot of not penises in this season. There's more exposition, and then Eagle, the leader of the Autozom forces, pulls a Captain Kirk and sends himself on the away mission to have a friendly exchange of weapons fire with the knights in his mech. They fight. First we have a round of, "Your science is no match for our
Magic!
Then, "Your
Magic!
is no match for my science!" Then we go back to, "Your science is no match for our
Magic!"
And Eagle GTFOs for now. The girls go back to Sephiroth's Crystal Penis and run into Fario, who takes them to meet with every other character from Season 1. There's Lafarga, Caldina, and Ascot?
Can't you see this is Ascot? You're joking! I mean, the last time I saw him, he was maybe only about this tall.
It seems in the few months that the girls have been gone, Ascot used the power of, I don't know, plot convenience? To become a man, because he's got the hots for Umi. Pretty girls, sending young boys into puberty since the dawn of time. There's more talking, no one has seen Alcyone since the girls defeated Zagato, and then a tall, brooding stranger appears. Meet Lantis, Zagato's younger brother. He's tall and broody, and that's basically it so far for his personality. But that's okay, because he comes with Primera! A highly annoying fairy who's in love with Lantis, and gets ridiculously jealous whenever another girl touches him. Ew. Everyone goes to bed, but none of the Magic Knights can sleep, so they all go off to find someone to talk to. This is where the B-plot of Series 2 starts to come into play. Ladies, it's time to pick your boyfriends! Fu already has a head start due to her previous interactions with Ferio, and the two resume being awkwardly flirty, now with the added dynamic of Fu having murdered Ferio's big sister. Umi has a talk with Clef, feeling guilty because of all her whining last season about wanting to go home instead of saving Saphiro. And Hikaru runs into Lantis, who is helping a little girl deal with her nightmares. Aww. The little girl in question is actually one that Hikaru saved in Season 1, and after taking her back to the residential quarters, Hikaru tells Lantis that she's sorry for killing Zagato, and that if he's angry and wants to hurt the Magic Knights, then he can hit her, but to please leave Umi and Fu alone. Before the moment becomes too awkward, Clef summons the girls to fight Autozom again, and one transformation sequence later, the girls are off to face down Eagle. Again. But an old friend has other ideas. That's right, it's the old lady who just wouldn't die, Alcyone. She threatens the Magic Knights, but Umi's confident that the failure of a sorceress is no threat and lets Alcyone's spell hit her. Because she's dumb. Apparently Alcyone's had upgrades and now her magic is super effective. That's the end of not only this episode block, but the first season as well. And I have some thoughts to share. The first season of Magic Knight Rayearth followed a very traditional JRPG plot formula for the most part, and because of that, Clamp's twist ending of Emerald being in love with Zagato and summoning the Magic Knights for some assisted suicide feels kind of forced. While I understand the idea behind it, Twist wasn't built up enough to be logical and feels more like being blindsided by a sledgehammer than having the world turned upside down only to realize in retrospect that the clues were there all along. But what they're doing with that twist in the second season is fascinating. Each of the girls is suffering not only from post-traumatic stress due to fighting a war in another world, but once they return to Saphiro, have a huge helping of survivor's guilt heaped on top, when they must confront a world falling apart because of their actions, and have to come face to face with the families of their victims. It's a neat idea for character development, and I'm interested to see where it goes. But before we talk about second season, there's a little something from first season I should probably address. The villains. While we've talked about the Magic Knights and their most predominant character foils, I've largely left the antagonists from Season 1 untouched because I wanted their arcs to be complete before talking about them. Because of that, we won't be looking at Ascot, Caldina, or Alcyone today, since they return in second season and have more plot coming. Instead, let's take a look at the villain triad from Season 1. Zagato, Innova, and Princess Emerald. Innova is the least developed of the three, so we'll start there. He's an elemental spirit that was given to Zagato by Princess Emerald, and became human because of his loyalty to Zagato, wanting to be his second-in-command once he started this war on Saphiro. While there are some hints that his feelings for Zagato may go deeper than loyalty, they aren't fully developed. His primary role in the Triad is to serve as a bond between Emerald and Zagato, and his primary role in the series is to keep the other underlings in line. He succeeds admirably at the former, and fails pretty miserably at the latter, since every single underling except Alcyone jumps ship. And just as an aside, his beast form looks remarkably similar to Rayearth's, making me wonder if there isn't some kind of relation there. Anyway, Zagato is the formidable big bad. In the series, he's mostly seen looking ominous from his villain's lair, and the few times he goes out before the finale, it's obvious that he is incredibly powerful and dangerous. He's a man in love, with the power to fight the whole world if necessary. He represents the theme of love as a selfish thing, willing to throw the entire world and all the people in it away to be with Emerald. Emerald, by contrast, is an incredibly conflicted character. She is the pillar of Saphiro, and as such is responsible to love and care for the whole world, praying for its peace and prosperity to the exclusion of all else. But she's also human, and when she falls in love, she is torn between her duty and her own heart. That conflict manifests itself in the slow destruction of Saphiro, and the only way she can see to reconcile it is to cease being the pillar of Saphiro and die. Whereas Zagato's love is selfish, Emerald represents love as sacrifice. She's unwilling to let the world die because she is weak, and instead chooses to die herself so the world can prosper. A large part of Zagato's selfishness is probably caused by Emerald's willingness to die, as it's obvious that the upper echelons of Sephiroth's government know the true purpose of the Magic Knights. It's my personal opinion that Emerald's decision to kill herself stems in part from having made the sacrifice of love before, when she erased Ferrio's memories of her and gave up her only living family to better do her duty as the pillar of Sephiroth. I imagine that having experienced that pain once, Emerald was unwilling to endure it again, and instead summoned the Magic Knights as a better way of dealing with her emotions. Whether or not that was the best choice has yet to be seen. After all, this is the year of Clamp, and we're doing it all, 1 week at a time.
You're in my library, motherfucker!
Ah!
Mucho 欲状態このまま風にさ